using this for funding.
Okay.
Most grant applications these days are asking for video, testimonials,
Yeah.
and just put something together
Yeah.
that talks about what we do and et cetera, et cetera. So the main reason that we're doing this is for our own record and for those types of grant and foundation applications, government grants and foundations.
Okay.
If we decide at some point to make it public, we'll be contacting you and et cetera, et cetera. If you want some of the footage, you just need to ask, of course.
Perfect. Okay.
So, yeah.
Or put it in the next year, Cine Las Americas,
Yeah.
and get the award for ourselves,
Right.
The best movie, best director,
Yeah.
best producer, best everything.
So usually I've been starting with, the filmmaker and tell me about your film. I think in this case we should start with, tell me about the series that you helped curate and program here.
Okay.
Do a little bit of context on, how that happened and, how, you've been working in other places and finally bringing it here.
Okay.
Then we will talk briefly about your experience at the festival, and you don't have to be nice. The whole part of the point of this is for the festival to get better.
Okay.
So, go for it.
Okay.
And then that's essentially it. Your experience. What do you think festivals like Cine Las Americas should be doing to, be better, be of more help to the filmmakers that you're working with, the institution that you come from.
Okay.
That kind of thing, especially in the context of being in Texas, being in Austin, being a Latino festival, of course.
Yeah.
So that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Okay. So let me get my thoughts straight.
Okay.
We are talking about the name of your retrospective, Path Waves.
Yeah.
Correct. Path Waves. Is there more to the name?
No, you can just say pathway. That's pretty much the title of it. It's Pathways.
So I'm, not to butcher anything, I'm going to let you introduce that. My question is just going to be, tell me your name and your, what are you doing here?
Okay.
And,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Perfect.
And this was, of course, all recorded.
Okay.
Because he's already rolling.
It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah. So thank you, Cindy, for being here, for visiting us. Tell me, please, your full name, your affiliation, where you come from, your affiliation with Cine Las Americas this year.
My name is Cindy Benitez, and I'm from the Smithsonian National Museum of the American Indian in New York. We have two museums, one in New York and one in D.C., and I work for the Film and Video Center Department, which has been established for 30 plus years. And I'm here because I'm also a documentary juror this year, which I was invited by you guys, Cine Las Americas. And I'm also here because I curated a shorts program called Pathways that's in the youth section.
Right.
And should I go into it about Pathways?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pathways was actually created as a program for a showcase that we did in New Mexico, which is called the Native Cinema Showcase. Every year, the museum gets in touch with the Indian market organization called SWAYA, and they have a week-long celebration of Indian artists, and they display their works, and they decided that they wanted a film showcase to go with it. So we established that showcase about 13 years ago, and they kind of wanted to focus more on youth aspects, so that's where I came in. And I programmed in 2012 Pathways program for youth, and there happened to be an audience member who was affiliated with the Seattle Children's Film Festival. And they called me a couple days after that, and they said we would love to showcase that in Seattle. Okay. So from there began the journey of having that curated shorts program, going from festival to festival. And it went to the Red Cat Children's Festival. It went to Reel Festival in Vancouver. It went to, I think the Austin Film Society actually showed in their Asian American festival. I think it was July. And it also showed in Georgia. So with the success of that, we decided again to do another, curated shorts program. So I started curating a second one for 2014, and Seattle showed it again. And I also kind of decided that maybe I should just reach out to other film festivals that maybe don't know that we have this package deal of youth films that, you know, could be showcased, you know, just pretty much hand to mouth. So I actually cold called Jean, and I just kind of found an email on the Cine Las Americas website, and I just emailed and I said, "Hi Jean, my name is Cindy from NMAI. I have a youth shorts program. I saw your Emergencia youth program. I think it would be a great fit. Let me know if you're interested." And then Jean called me within 2 days. And she was so excited, and she's like, "Oh my goodness, we would love to include something like that. You know, please send over like the synopsis of the program and let us know like what would be the next step." So my conversation actually was with her like months, you know, building up to it. And what's funny, and I didn't even know who Jean really was because like I didn't see the title. And then only until before I came here, I realized that she was a program director. I was like, wow. I'm like, okay. Because I was like talking to her like she was like my best friend. We're like, oh yeah, you know, laughing, joking, you know. But it's just been a real blessing, you know, that program. And we realized the power in our museum, especially our film and video center, that film is kind of the way for a lot of Indigenous Native people to express themselves in a manner that they can't really do within like politics or even, I mean, there's art, but like film is a whole kind of segue of art, and especially for the youth. And there's so many youth out there that do so many amazing films, and they just don't have a platform to show it. So I'm really thankful that we created a shorts program like that to give to other film festivals for them to showcase. And the fact that it's here at Cine Las Americas is, for me, it's an honor because I've known Cine for a long time, and filmmakers have told me, and you know, a lot of Native filmmakers, this is a really great festival. You know, you should, you know, go down there and visit. And it's always kind of like you have these lists of festivals, which one can you make it to? And the fact that Jean called me back so immediately, and then she was so warm and touching and loving, that I was like, wow, I was like, this is a different kind of film festival. Totally. And so even coming here and seeing the schedule, the fact that Cine had such a great selection of Native Indigenous films, it's great because there aren't a lot of film festivals anymore that show that, unfortunately. And, you know, I think for me, as in my experience being here at Cine, is that, first of all, you guys have like, you speak Spanish and English, and there's volunteers and staff that speak both, which to me is huge because I know so many Latin American filmmakers that come and go to film festivals and don't have that. They're like, I just stand there and nobody can translate for me. Or if they do, it's really bad Spanish and I don't understand what they're saying. So the fact that right off the get-go, there's just, so many languages going back and forth and everybody can understand or help somebody that it can't is something that is, you guys, I mean, that's amazing. I mean, really it is. Because it comes down from when the museum actually had their own film festival for 30 years, Native American Film and Video. And we had Indigenous filmmakers from all over the world. And the ones that always came were the Brazilians and the ones from Central and South America. And we would have that. We would have multi-interpreters. It would be like, okay, can you speak Portuguese? Can you speak Spanish? How can we get everybody just to connect? And that fact that I see this here is like, it really is. I mean, guys should totally appreciate, I mean, seriously.
That's funny that you say that. Thank you for your kind words.
Yeah.
Because I remember asking other visiting Native Americans, especially filmmakers who had been to the festival, your festival in New York, asking them, so how do you subtitle these things? You know, and they would tell me all kinds of tricks, including FM frequency, where they would just do the translation as live in the theater while the film was playing. And I think it's I want to ask you this because I think the combination of youth films and indigenous films is very important. We've been trying to cultivate both for a number of years, and the way we've been programming our indigenous films is we don't have a section of indigenous films, or not always. We kind of throw them there in the mix.
Absolutely.
It is the same right now what we did with Emergencia. Emergencia is combined with local youth filmmakers and other filmmakers from out of the country, from elsewhere in the country, and then your program that is focused on indigenous filmmakers. So I want to ask you, why is it relevant to program these films that are being, first of all, made by youth, and second, made by indigenous youth, or that are touching on indigenous themes?
Yeah. Well, I think what's relevant is what I've seen within the past. I've worked in Indian countries, they say, for the past 8 years. And I've come from the PR side, and I've come from now the programmer side. And what has always stuck out is the youth that you see progressively every film that they have. They keep getting better and better, and they start becoming more creative than the established filmmakers that are already, like Chris Ayers, Sterling Harjo, which do fabulous films. And then you see some of these kids emulate that, and they're like, I want to be like that Choctaw filmmaker. I want to be like that, filmmaker Divino, from Brazil. And so you could see some of these films that are coming out from there, and these are youth that are, I think the film I've ever seen was from a 7-year-old. And it was just a little animation that she just drew, and it was just her little voiceover, and it was her teacher that was helping her. But, and she was out from the Navajo reservation, but you could clearly see, like, her ideas and what's going on. And a lot of kids, today, especially in a lot of Indian communities, they go through a rough time, Not all, come from impoverished reservation communities, but there's a lot of issues that are going on that youth can't really express, and the way that they do it is through film. And you could see that with a lot of the films. Like, they discuss raw subjects like suicide, poverty, drugs, addiction, but they also talk about the positive side. Hey, I'm Native, but I have these dreams, and this is what I want to do. I am also still traditional, but I still like to listen to hip hop. So it's just hearing their voices, a voice that's not heard often. And that's what I've seen in these films. And I've seen a lot of these filmmakers grow up, and now they're like starting to do their feature films. They're trying to use Kickstarter. And I think that's really important, especially within the indigenous community, because their voices are not heard to begin with. And there's not a lot of platforms for them to be heard. So to have film festivals like Cine Las Americas, and there's ones like American Indian Film Festival, and ours that it's on hiatus, and there's certain pockets that give them that platform is very important, because they get lost in the shuffle. They get lost in the shuffle in the bigger film festivals.
Right.
And the bigger film festivals only want the ones that are like HD, that are completed, they're beautiful, crisp, and it's not like that. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
No film is like that. These are, some of these are guerrilla filmmakers, and they're just out there with the camera, and if they're lucky, a boom, and just making these films. Absolutely, and that's exactly what some of the youth are. Not all of them have a camera. They just use their cell phone, or they use whatever they can. And I think that's really, really important, for the next wave of indigenous filming, because the way I see it as, it's increasing rapidly, and there's just not enough platform for them to showcase it. And NMAI tries to do as much as they can, and we try to show as many films as we can, but we can't always do it. So, we reach out to film festivals like you guys and other ones that will be willing or are interested in showing something like that. And that's what I hope, not only that we continue with the Pathwaves and that there's that annual thing that I can keep showing at different festivals, but also that, that there's a platform for more indigenous film to come out,
Right.
Not just from Canada and the US, but from Latin America, and it's very strong. And there's great films from New Zealand and Australia, and there's just so a big pocket. And I think that's just really, really important. I mean, just the voice, just having their voice heard somewhere, and just to see that voice being heard here is amazing. I mean, to see films like Master and Divino, and seeing films that We Women War, just talking about indigenous issues is great, because it's not, like I said, it's not really shown, and the fact that they're in competition is something else too. So it really is. I really think that Cine, seriously could be the next wave for indigenous filmmakers really to put their mark here.
And that would be a great honor for us.
Yeah.
And precisely, I think my next question has to do with that. So, besides, a festival being able to create a space for, for a program to find an audience, what is it that we could do, in the context of what you've seen in your time here? And this, this is specific for Cine Las Americas, being in Austin, being in Texas. In the spirit of Cine Las Americas being a better festival, what is it that we can do, in the context of, the youth films, but also, indigenous film in general, what kind of services, what kind of platforms, what kind of things could we be doing to really make, you know, the time and the effort put by the filmmakers worth, you know, the exhibition, the getting here, the presence, all of that.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think what would be excellent if in the future for CNA is if you guys maybe could have like maybe some panels, some symposium, something. Have these filmmakers, you know, discuss the issues today of what's happening in filmmaking. You know, even with, not saying that it has to be indigenous or whatever, just having a space for them to speak, for people to listen to what's happening in filmmaking today. Because I know that that happens a lot. I mean, there's always that informal conversation, and you could hear the voices of filmmakers talking about, hey, you know, have you heard of this new kind of film and like this kind of, you know, HD, and I think, you know, there's so many issues that need to be discussed, especially, and you could see in each film festival, there's a theme that goes. And I think that what, you know, especially you guys have Sebastian here, and then you have like some other great filmmakers from South America here, you know, to talk about, hey, I am a Chilean filmmaker, I am a Brazilian filmmaker, this is what's happening here in my home country, and this is how I'm trying to do things to improve. I think that would be really interesting to see that. Maybe some workshops. I mean, I don't know. I know that, you know, that there can also be a lot of time and effort to have that inside, but I think I'm always interested in going and seeing like panels and symposiums and workshops if there's available, something that I can learn. Because, you know, maybe I don't know about this certain filmmaker and I kind of want to, you know, like hear what he has his thoughts, you know. Because, you know, you can only do so much in an informal setting before somebody comes over and talks to them. You know, you have maybe 5 minutes. So to hear a filmmaker sit there in front of you in a formal setting amongst other filmmakers and talk about their ideas and things that are happening, I think that's really great. And I always appreciate that at any film festival. And I think that would be really, really great. And then you can bring other partners and organizations in too, to kind of be like, okay, this is a collaborative effort, and maybe make it bigger. You know, I mean, you guys already have great free screenings and the documentary stuff too. And, you know, definitely for the youth, I think that's always the toughest, because you never know what organization's really your youth and like who's really going to come. And what I've found is that when you start having personal connections with different youth organizations, they're more willing to give you their stuff and then tell you that there's something else that you never knew about, and they give it to you. And that's how I've created my kind of connection. And I've learned from other things. I've also, you know, gone to film festivals that have nothing to do with Indigenous, and, you know, I just go to a regular film festival, and I just start taking ideas from that. Or I learn about something, you know, small little Indigenous, you know, organization that happens to do something I'm interested in. I'm like, oh, I would never have known that. And, you know, I think CNA definitely should take advantage of that, and just like, you know, I don't, you know, if you guys, you know, have the opportunity to just go to film festivals that you wouldn't normally go to, like Imaginative Film Festival in Toronto. It's a really, really great platform for a lot of Indigenous, you know, speaking people. And, you know, just like even small little pockets from here and there. And that's what I've learned. It's like, I've stopped going to like the usual, and I've stopped going to the unusual. Yeah, to the other different film festivals.
Amazing. I mean, for us, I mean, again, it's truly an honor, because we, you know, just a few years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, we decided to expand the program and include Indigenous films in the spirit of creating a Pan-American experience, if you would.
Yeah.
We, you know, it showed that the Latin American context is not complete without the Indigenous. You know, it will be ridiculous to think that all there is, you know, the Latin American films that we see. And, you know, there's a lot of back and forth, and Latin American films have to do with Indigenous themes, and there are non-Indigenous filmmakers making Indigenous films, and vice versa. Yeah. And that's why we don't try to segregate them. We try to, in fact, integrate them. Right. But there's, you know, for us, it's always an honor, because, you know, I guess for a lot of people, we're a Latino film festival to begin with. Yeah. You know, I mean, this came a little bit after the festival was established and such. So. Yeah. So what you say about going, you know, to these particular events, I think it could be a really good experience.
Oh, absolutely, and you would learn a whole other aspect of what's really out there. For example, Imaginative, they have amazing First Nations. I mean, Canada has an amazing like sink pool of like great filmmakers that are making things. lot of support, a lot of backing, a lot of great ideas. And that's a whole different film. And then for them, they are looking for Latin American indigenous works because they don't have that contact.
Right.
So, you know, that's why we've become their contact for some of that because we deal with a lot of Latin America. And then, you know, I even reached out to them and I said, well, there's Cine Las Americas, there's stuff down here. Oh, and it's kind of like trying to, like, you know, connect the dots. And I think that's what's much needed with different film, especially independent film festivals that don't have the major backing of American Express and all that great stuff.
Right.
I think it expands the community more outwards, you know. And there's great film festivals in South America and in Mexico too. Like there's CLACBI, and there's just different indigenous films there that you will never see anywhere. So you have to go to that film festival.
Right.
But that's just always see as a good space to just kind of like get ideas, get different things, and then you kind of like create the next festival. Okay, well, we can do this now because now we have these many films.
Right.
You know. So I mean, that's the beauty of being a festival programmer. You know, it's kind of like, okay, well, what can we be creative the next year, and if we can, and if we could put it down.
Well, and
you know?
the beauty of you know, a series that can travel.
Yeah.
You know, that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would not be able to put together.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that kind of collaboration is for us is invaluable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you know, besides the fact that you know we are showing a partnership with the Smithsonian Institute and all of that, you know, the fact that we're able to access this material, these films, you know, and put it together, and you know, we're not starting from scratch. That's super valuable. I mean, it wouldn't happen otherwise. Really.
No, exactly, and that's what the museum tries to is like. We have a font of information and we have so much knowledge about film, indigenous film. It's like, well, we're here. If you guys want to talk to us, please feel free. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, we're also a research center.
Right.
And we also have our own archives of different films from around the world. So why not? Why not touch base with that? You know, and that's why, like I said, I'm so glad that we finally connected because we've seen you throughout the years with different films, like Benny Klain has been here, and then Sterling Harjo, and all these great filmmakers, and it's like, wow, we never make it there, and like this is the first time that we've, you know, like, okay, let's do it, let's finally cross the bridge, and like being here, like for me, like I know I'm gonna go back, and I'm just gonna like just tell every single filmmaker, hey, you guys just need to start submitting over there, you know, and that's also I've realized too with a lot of indigenous filmmakers, they hold back on submitting to a lot of film festivals because they don't know.
Sometimes it's understandable too.
Yeah, absolutely, because they don't know about the film festival or if that film festival would really appreciate their art.
Right, and the contextualization
Absolutely,
of the work.
absolutely.
Right.
So the fact that you guys are having films here and now it's growing is great. And I definitely, you know, I'm hoping that you guys get like more submissions than just that. I mean, because I definitely think it would be beneficial to you, you know, in general, it's just to be the kind of another platform for them, especially in Austin, which is a great city in itself. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so
That's
much.
very nice of
I'm
you.
honored to be here, and I hope we continue our partnership.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah. I remember, and you know, this is off the record. He won't stop recording, but that's fine.